Hello.
Welcome to Monday.
Welcome to Monday. This is a huge show.
Yes, it is. This is the show of shows. So I
And
just,
the show shows. This is our last show for this season, which is season 2. Um,
yeah, I just feel like we needed to, you know, put on
go,
our fancy duds.
yeah, go out with a bang.
And this is definitely going to be a bang. So this show idea came about just from us fumbling around. And so we decided to talk about the Borcht Belt.
Yes.
Did I say it right?
Yes, I think you did. I'm not even going to try to say it with my accent. There's certain things I cannot say yet. But let me tell you that my background, actually, the reason why I'm here is because of the Borcht Belt.
Okay.
Because I started working at the Brickman Hotel years ago, and that was how I got to come to the Catskill.
Okay.
I started out with folding towels.
Okay. Yeah.
Then I started doing making the best pina colada in the Catskill.
So I'm told.
And then I ended up doing entertainment.
Yeah. So what hotels did you work in?
I worked at the Brickman Hotel.
The Brickman. Okay.
Yes, in the Brickman Hotel, and it was very interesting. I met a lot of interesting people there, and some of them are still my friends.
Yeah.
So like that Toba that we had on the show before, he's still my friend. And there's other people, they used to write letters to me, but they didn't know my whole name. So they used to write letters saying Kung Fu Pete.
Kung Fu Pete.
And somehow he reached me. And, we'll talk a little bit about it. And
thank you, Daniel, for the link about the Wikipedia link about the Borcht Belt in case anyone wants any more information. So Merry Christmas, Karen. Thank you, Jiyoung, for joining us. Looking good. People are talking about your bow tie. Jiyoung says she likes your bow tie.
Oh, thank you. Is it crooked?
Now it is.
We usually don't get dressed up for this,
but
I had when I was at Brickman, they allowed me to do a lot of things that other people couldn't do.
Like.
So one of the things that I wanted
legal things.
We were legal, and you didn't really mix with the guests, but they allowed me to do that.
Okay.
I'm not sure that I'm going to talk about all of that today, but I remember that I wanted to go to the nightclub. I wanted to watch the ads at the nightclub.
Of course.
And then when I went there, the matron said to me, "You can't come in." And I said, "What?" Okay, I really wanted to, and he said, "Okay, you could come in, but you have to have a jacket on." So you got to dress. You got to dress the part.
Yes, you had to dress the part.
You got to dress the part.
I want to shout out to Eli Tubo, who is the producer of our theme song, and I love how Joanna was dancing while the theme song was playing. So
yeah. So I guess we're gonna start where it really started for me.
Okay.
We're going to start with two people that have been an influence.
Okay.
Yes, in my life. And we're going to start with them. And
who are we bringing in?
We're bringing in Patti Posner.
Okay.
Which is one of the daughters from one of the owners from the hotel. And Larry Strickler.
Okay.
Okay.
So, Joanna is super excited for the show, just as we are.
We're going to have pretty soon. Hey, Larry.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. How you been?
All right,
Pretty good. My wife and I are in Florida right now.
Oh, you are?
The warmer weather.
Hi.
You have to move over. She's trying to get in the camera.
Is she there?
There I am.
Oh, wait.
Hi.
Hi.
You know what? Before we talk to you, I'm glad she's there. Before we talk to you, I'm gonna show a little something, okay?
A little clip.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Shelley Strickler.
And I'm Larry Strickler.
We've been married for 58 years and together in quarantine for the last 3 months.
OMG.
What are we gonna do?
Tell them.
Another month.
Another day. When will this virus go away? We're through with Netflix and all those old flicks. Let's go make whoopee.
That's great about it.
We still make whoopee.
Hey.
That's
sorry.
great. Oh,
We learned it in the
that's great
Catskills.
That was
Okay,
hysterical.
I'm going to bring Patti in too because,
Yes.
okay, we're going to add it right there. Hey, Patti, how are you?
Hi, everybody. So good to see you. Pete, I haven't seen you in 100 years.
Oh my God.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, it's been a while.
But I have. Da 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 da.
Hey!
Nice. Some Brickman merch. Very cool.
Yes, that's very cool.
And I have, who I know that you love very much, my dad.
Yes, yes.
I thought he would like to be in the show also.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. I was telling my wife about what an influence I have working at the Brickman. And one of the stories that I could tell about that is that I used to do a show at the Brickman by the pool, right, Larry?
Yes, a show by the pool. Yes.
Yeah, I remember those shows by the pool. Because I was in them.
Yes.
But I
And
used to wear this thing too. You see?
Oh!
Liar.
So I tell you that, well, Larry was the announcer when I did the show.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was doing the show, somebody reported me to the local police because I was using nunchucks.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, well, you don't know about that, but I tell you, I think I told Patti the story.
I know this story.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So because I was using the nunchucks, back then the nunchucks were illegal.
Mm-hmm.
But they were illegal outside, not outside of your house, not in your house.
And you were just walking around.
So they came to the hotel and they took me in.
That's so funny.
And Mr. Posner came and talked to them and said, if you keep him, I'm going to sue you.
All that I remember clearly is that you were terrific in entertaining the guests, doing those physical things that you were doing. And it helped me look better.
Well, you were great because you're so good at what you do. I don't even know how I got started doing that. All I noticed one day, we're talking, and then the next thing you were announcing, and I used to do a lot of crazy things like putting a cigarette on somebody's mouth and knocking it off with the nunchucks. And I was a big, tough guy. And then what happened at the end, Larry?
I forget. What happened at the end?
At the end, after I beat up everybody, your daughter used to come in.
Oh, yes.
Your daughter came in.
My youngest daughter, Sari.
Yes.
And what did she do?
She flipped me at the end.
Like
I wasn't such a tough guy.
Oh.
She would throw me at the end.
That's right. I forgot about that, and I shouldn't have.
I never knew. Pete, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
How did you end up at the Brickman? And what year was it?
That was in the 70s. I think it was 76, 75.
And how did you end up in the Catskills?
I ended up in the Catskill because my uncle wanted me to work.
Okay.
So it was a summer thing. I thought it was a summer thing, and then I met so many people, and then I started, loving it, and then I never left.
Mm-hmm.
So I would make my money during the summer, and then I stay up during the winter.
So you lived.
I was very lucky. What they right by the pool was a gigantic space where there was a band shell as well. And therefore we were able to do Simon Says and exercise classes and also entertaining shows like what you did.
Yes. Now we saw you in a movie, Larry.
Welcome to Kutchers.
Oh my God. Welcome to Kutchers, the last Castkill Resort.
Yes,
Right,
yes.
right.
Great documentary. Great. We really enjoyed it.
That was filmed about 4 or 5 years ago, and it's become more and more prominent now. Netflix.
Oh, wow, really?
Netflix is the one that releases it.
Well, I think when you have a film like that and it's streaming, it's definitely easier for people to see it instead of having to go, to the theater. So it's people are watching it for the comfort of their own home, and they usually find it. A lot of people find it because they end up spelling something wrong. Like when they're trying to spell borscht. So Larry, tell us what your role was and how long you were announcer.
Let's start with the first hotel.
Right. Well, the first hotel, I was 17 years old.
Wow.
And a friend of mine convinced me to come in his band, that he would tell the owner that he didn't need a fourth piece, that instead he should have a singer who could MC the shows on Saturday nights.
And the name of the hotel?
And the name of the hotel, are you ready? The Schleimy Ehrenreich Hotel, which was in Loch Sheldrake, New York. And it was wonderful. I worked there for 2 years. Then I worked the Loch Sheldrake Inn. And then the Grand Mountain Hotel for 3 years. Then Gilbert's Hotel for 1 year. And then in 1965, I came to, what was the name of that place again?
There was this cute
the Brickman Hotel. And the two bosses, who were brothers, they took good care of me, as much as me taking good care of them.
And we met this teenager at the time.
14 years old at the time.
Almost 15.
Almost 15.
Right.
And that was Patti.
There's a lot of people right now.
And then after that, I worked at Kutchers Country Club for 25 years.
Wow.
Before it was all over.
But mention about that stuff in the show business kind of thing in the first place when you were a kid.
Oh yeah, actually, I started into show business when I was 5.5 years old. I auditioned for a part on the Milton Berle show, the Texaco Star Theater, and I got the part. And it was a major part. I sang 2 or 3 songs. The last one with Milton Berle. I did a Jackie Gleason show. I did a few things like that. And then by 12 years old, I started getting taller. So I was a has-been at 12 years old. And came back to the profession when I was 17 professionally in the Catskill Mountains.
Beautiful.
And it was joyous. And Patti, it was really special. It really was special, Patti.
It still is.
Yes. And my daughters loved Patti. I mean,
they still do.
They still do. And they're years old now.
We're the same age now.
They're
we
older
will
than
reach
Patti
ages, right?
now, I think, and older than me. And but I had 3 daughters, twin daughters, and a baby daughter.
And you know what's
and they were raised in the Catskill Mountains.
And you know what's great? Get my face in here. Oh, that's okay. You don't need my face. But what's really great is that even our grandchildren got a taste of the Catskills for a while at mostly at Kutchers, and they just think of it with great love, even though it was in the waning days of the Catskills.
Resorts.
But when we think back, we say to ourselves, don't we, Larry, how yes, it's sad, but man, oh man, the memories we have of something that was so special and so unique.
And there's one of the memories right there.
It's impossible.
Patti.
It's like the greatest thing in the world.
Oh, I love that.
So Patti, let me ask you, because every bellhop at the Brickman had a crush on you.
And I married and I met them both and Larry and Shelley. I met all four of my two husbands and Larry and Shelley on April Fool's Day, 1965.
That's right.
Oh my gosh, that's
And Larry
hysterical.
and Shelley are still in my life, and my two ex-husbands are not.
Oh,
I was a
God.
little younger then.
Yeah, I remember that because, you know, like, I didn't think you knew
That I knew what?
that they all had a crush on you.
Ah,
I didn't.
They,
You know, being the boss's daughter, some of the guys had to be, I guess, more careful
uh-huh.
than they were with the staff. You know, that
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was wondering about that.
they were with the staff. Yeah, well, being the boss's daughter was a fine line between being a friend and being a part of the Posner family. You know, so I had to walk a tightrope sometimes. But then some of the guys were so cute that I just skirted off the tightrope every once in a while. Married two of them.
Oh, yeah.
And there were a lot of big stars who played there, and some of them were big stars to come. Bette Midler was there
Right.
when she was really an unknown figure, and she did a late show on a Sunday, and the rest is history. And there were so many other people like that who started out in the Catskills and became not just stars but superstars.
Yes.
Bette Midler was one of them. And but there were other acts that were just wonderful. They really were. I mean, they didn't become big stars, but they were wonderful up there. I mean, my favorite was Mal Z. Lawrence. I loved
Yes.
Mal Z.
oh
Yeah.
wow,
But
yeah.
and he just recently passed away.
Yeah.
Uh, But there was a humorist by the name of Larry Best, and there was Freddie Roman, who was just wonderful, and Van Harris and Morty Gunty and Jack Eagle, and so many great names.
You can remember them all.
I can't believe that I remember them. Or my you know. Davy Carr. I mean, I love Davy Carr. But I wonder how many of the people who are listening to the show know these names. Well, maybe they do.
Do you know that my first foot in show business was because of David Carr?
Oh, really? He was a wonderful guy, and his wife was wonderful.
Yes, well, there was a lady named Sandy that worked at the hotel. You remember her?
I seen that.
Sandy.
Oh, oh, yeah.
I know.
What was that?
I don't know what's happening to me. All of a sudden, I got.
Okay.
Hello, Patti.
Hi, Larry. How are you?
I don't remember a thing. I don't remember.
I'm just going to tell you
got a
what
headache.
happened. Well, David Carr was performing, and it was the Late Show. And he told me, your uncle told me, yes, your uncle told me that I should go in the middle of his act and start sweeping.
Oh yeah.
And that was my first.
What was your first introduction into showbiz? Sweeping the stage.
I sweeping the stage, and then he started saying some funny stuff that I didn't understand because they were Yiddish.
Larry didn't understand the Yiddish either. Don't worry.
I understood just one or two words here and there that, you know.
Yeah, I picked up a couple of things.
Wonderful years.
Yes.
I mean, and the variety of things that one could do, because when I worked as the director of activities, it wasn't just by the pool side. It could be in the dining room. I had to do things in the dining room to entertain guests sometimes, or the nightclub, of course. But it was fascinating. It really was, and I was a very lucky man.
Yeah, it sounds like something that, you know, you would do for years and years because it's just you having so much fun and doing something that you love. It sounds like it was a blast.
It was a blast, but let me tell you, it was work. And you had to control yourself sometimes. I think in all my years, I only lost my temper with a guest only twice. And that was a lot of years. But generally speaking, you try to be warm and you try to make them feel that you have a friendship, real friendship.
What amazes me the most is that, because it was my home, like for Larry, it was a place that he loved and he worked and it was home, or for you, you came and you worked and that was your experience. But I was born into this, and this was my home. And we sold the hotel 35 years ago. And like over all of these years, it's like magnified. It's like everyone's memories have been magnified, and they just are so attached to this experience that they almost can't explain. And for me, it just fills me up with joy, because I would say almost once or twice a week, I get a comment or an email or a text from somebody that tells me how special being in the Catskills was for them, and particularly being at the Brickman, and how special that was. And like, be at this point in my life, 35 years after the fact, and like, it still brings joy to people. It's just, I never, thought that would happen. It's incredible. It's an incredible feeling for me, because it was, as I said, it was my home. Like Larry came there in 1965. I was just plopped in there as a toddler, younger than that. And, I remember, I say, my first memory is not of a lobby or not of a living room. It's of a lobby.
Right.
Like we didn't have a dining room with just my mom and dad. We had a kitchen with a complete staff, and so that it warms me up so that people are still so enthralled with the Catskills, and that you would do a show like that. I don't call it the Borsch Belt. I call it the Catskills.
The Catskill.
The Catskill.
And when I don't call it the Catskills, I call it home. But it's really thrilling, because for me too, it was the time of my life. I mean, I worked hard. I ran the kitchen, but I loved it. I have wonderful stories to tell of my time there. And my time is still there in some ways.
Yes.
So it's just great. So I thank you for doing something like this.
Well, we thank you for joining us. We're gonna, before we let you two go, we are going to show a couple comments, because people are saying hello and just making comments. Our friend Daniel Miller from Canada, he says he met Freddie Roman in Montreal. Wonderful. Hey, Daniel. Melissa Stolman, who is our neighbor, she's saying hi, Patti.
Hi. Any fish?
I know.
That's right.
Jennifer Rebecca.
Larry. Hi, Larry.
And then she says hello to Patti as well.
Hi, Jennifer.
Well, listen, we want to thank you guys for coming on and joining us and just sharing your thoughts and your stories. We appreciate you taking the time out of
Just one last thing.
Go ahead,
Larry. Just said one last thing.
Go ahead.
Later on, you're going to have a fellow by the name of Peter on the show.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, when Peter was a kid, when I worked the Grand Mountain Hotel, he must have been about 13 or 14 years old. And I first met him at that age, and I was 20 years old. So I can't wait to hear what he has to say.
All right.
Oh, wow.
All right.
And I was his teenage counselor.
I just have one last thing. It is great to see you, Pete, again. I've never met your wife, so it's great to see you. And that's wonderful to see Larry and Shelley, who I know so many years.
Yeah.
And who did a great job at the Green.
Larry, I want to say one thing. I'm going to invite your daughter to do a future show.
Oh, she would really love that.
About her book.
Oh,
yes.
yes.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we will get in touch with her.
Good. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Oh, good.
Okay.
So if my book comes out, you'll invite me back too, I hope.
Absolutely. Just let us know.
Yes,
Just let us know.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now the next guest.
We're gonna bring in we'll bring in Billy Vine.
Okay.
Billy Vine, John Conway, Sullivan County historian, and we will bring in now, or you want to bring in now?
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's bring in Joanna too.
Okay.
Have a great night.
I invite you guys all to sing along with me in the joy of the season. You ready? You better watch out. You better not cry. You better not pout. I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town. He's making a list, checking it twice. Gonna find out who's naughty, hello nice. Santa Claus is coming to town. Now I have scoured the world over.
That was fun from Patti.
Ha! Okay.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. Billy, fine. I haven't seen you. Oh, my God. Family reunion time. I love you, BB. I miss you.
Tell them all about it.
I love this. Love it. Love it. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Tweed Talks. You guys, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us. So Billy Vine is here. And we posted in one of the Borcht Belt groups on Facebook, and his daughter, Janie, contacted me and said, my dad would be perfect for the show. Theatrical director at the Concord Hotel for 50 years.
Wow.
And then he ran the Kutcher Stage and then Villa Roma. And from what he told me, he also has a book in the works. And one of the names he's tossing around is Backstage with Billy Vine, right, Billy?
That's it. There's no business like show business. That's part of the title.
All right. I love it. Welcome to the show, Billy. You have some interesting stories to tell us. And one of the stories you wanted to share with us is about Sammy Davis Jr.
Well, yeah, actually, Sammy, I was a young kid. Well, over here, Sammy, that's one of his first shows at the Concord. And he had some issues making his entrance when he was introduced in the Imperial Room. Being it's the world's largest nightclub in the Guinness World Book of Records, okay, it's a big stage. So when Sammy had a rehearsal, he was at the curtain and they played the music and he started to go and he said, it's too far. Center stage, I can't make it, Billy. What am I going to do? And Jolly Brown, who he travels with, came out. It looks like we're going to have to slipstream it, Sammy. And Sammy said, yeah, but then they won't have dancing before the show. Okay, well, that'll be good. The curtain will be closed. They'll come in. What I'm leading up to is Sammy Davis Jr. wanted to be in the wings. They wanted to play his bow music. And he runs on and locks up physically and slides the last 10, 12 feet till he gets the microphone where he runs out of slipperiness. They traveled in a little plane when they first started, and they called those planes puddle jumpers. In the 50s, the rock and rollers used to jump in them, go another couple of states away and work. So they got on a puddle jumper in a little plane, Sammy and Jolly Brown, and they went to the next stop. And the guy was waxing the wings. They thought it was Simonize or something. And the guy said, no, that's slipstream, man. You put it on the wing, we can go real fast and save a lot of gas. So they pick up on the slipstream. Now we come back to the Concord, and that picture you're looking at is me, Sammy, and Jolly talking about the big stage at the Concord. Let's put down some slipstream, man. And the stage will be black. We'll get introduced. They will pop the stage to full and hit you with a spotlight. You come run, and lock up and slide 10 feet and get to the mic and go, hello, Concord. So that's what that picture represents. But as most of the folks who are listening to the show, they're well aware of the Concord in the beginnings in the Cordellian Room, and then they built the Imperial Room. And with a stage that big, Phil Greenwald, who booked the show, said, I can buy Liberace. I can, and bring in those shows that had massive sets with 3 and 4 tractor trailer load-ins and load-outs and all. So I didn't pay for food. I didn't pay for a room. I just stayed there and did that 7 days a week for my whole life.
Wow.
So I learned and learned. And then all of a sudden, the guys who traveled from Vegas with the big shows, they said, look, man, don't you have any union stagehands here? You got all these local guys who, cut grass and haul hay or whatever they do. I said, yeah, they're moving the road cases. They're doing what we got to do. So I said, well, what do you need? He said, well, first of all, you got to go down and you got to become a rigger, a theatrical rigger. You got a big a fly-aloft system here, and we're going to put heavy weight up in the air, and it's going to come in whatever it was. So I went to the owners, Bobby Parker. I said, Bobby, they want me to become a licensed and a registered, rigger and this and that. Soho Scenic down in the Village is where I would go. He said, well, go there, get the information, give it to my secretary, Ruthie, and we'll take care of it. So at least I had that under my belt, and the sound and the lighting. But my family is show business. I would love to tell you quick about my grandfather, David Weinberg. But he made it Dave Vine because back at the Palace Theater on Broadway, it was a 25-30 cent afternoon show with a girl with a little top and a little skirt, and she came out and did the flip chart. And the next act, she put the flip chart. So my grandfather says to me, there's a girl out there with a husband, a strong man, and he lifts her up, and he says, I'm next. And they introduced David Weinberg. Well, people who worked together were the Italian people, Chinese people, Jewish people, Polish people. So he became a dialectician. David Weinberg spoke in many languages and English, and he was a stand-up comic. But my father was coming up, and he did the Crying Drunk, and the Wedding Bells Are Breaking Up, That Old Gang of Mine. And my grandfather became my father's manager. And my father married a Radio City music called Rockette.
Wow.
A great long story. But my dad, Billy Vine, introduced me to the Concord. It was my second home. I felt like family. And Marty Beck was the band leader, and he introduced Maurice Chevalier as Maurice Chevrolet. And he gets up and he starts walking backstage, and he said, where are you going? I'm going to see Billy. I went back and said, Billy, did you hear what Marty Beck said about Maurice Chevalier? I said, I heard what you heard, Mr. Winerick. You're like my son. You call me Arthur. I said, I heard what you heard, Arthur. You tell Marty Beck I came here and to clean out his room and the spare room I gave him for the dogs. And that happened. And I became the offstage. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Kindly take a seat. Showtime. You know who is here tonight. Let's all say hi to Tom Jones. And it went on and on and on.
Tom Jones.
Yeah, there's a lot of ears out there that remember those days. And we all loved them because it was the only place in the world that did what we did up here.
Right.
You know? And
wow.
I still Paul Anka, Milton Berle. Just great stuff with Milton Berle. I was friendly with Paul Anka, and I don't know if I want to keep going. But at any rate, the hotel's only just grass and memories now, and I have lots and lots of pictures. I hope a lot of you guys out there too, because they're fond memories. They were great times. You can't reproduce that ever.
Right. Well, Billy, hold the line really quick. We're going to go over to John Conway, but when we come back to you, I want you to tell the story about Henny Youngman, king of the one-liners. So we'll come back to you in a couple minutes.
Let's see that. Hi, John. BV.
How are you, Pedro?
All right, Conway.
I am super good. I'm super good. How are you?
I'm
Fine,
super good too.
Go.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you have a new book?
Well, actually, I had my latest book came out last year, right before COVID hit. So I had all of these book signings scheduled and distribution lined up, and everything hit, a dead stop. So it's basically a new book. We've just done a couple of book signings prior to the holiday, and it's called In Further Retrospect. It's available at a lot of the local stores, including the Christ Company in Monticello, Hurleyville General Store, The Secret Garden in Jeffersonville. It's also available on Amazon.com. And it's a collection of the columns that I've been doing about Sullivan County history for the last almost 35 years.
Wow. So I was reading through your book that came out in 2008, Remembering the Sullivan County Catskills. And one of the stories, well, several of the stories stuck out to me. The one about Lizzie Brown Halliday, we have to talk about another time, but that one was crazy. But tell us the story about Charles Atlas. It's in the famous names section of the book.
Sure.
I bought my cat.
You know, Crystal, Charles Atlas was one of many people who came to Sullivan County and discovered the fact that there was something very special about this area. I've talked often and written often about the impact that our reputation as a healing environment has had on the resort industry, on the economy in general. It's drawn people here for thousands of years, starting with the Native Americans. But in the 1920s, it was Charles Atlas, who was the world's most perfectly developed man. He was just starting out as a famous strongman. And he decided he wanted to conduct what he called a physical culture camp. So in other words, a place where people could come and exercise and learn how to take care of their bodies. And he went around the country trying to find a suitable location for it. And he chose Sullivan County for a number of reasons. But he was just one in a long line of people who realized that there's something very special here. He later wrote about some of the reasons why he chose Sullivan County. It had a great climate, he said, low humidity. There wasn't a lot of dampness, almost no mosquitoes. And there are parts of Sullivan County that we read about over the years that drew people here because of the lack of mosquitoes, especially along the Delaware River. I'm sure there are mosquitoes in Sackett Lake, but Charles Atlas said that was one of the main draws here. He just fell in love with the area, and I think that's a fairly typical story. That's what drew people here for, as I said, thousands of years. Probably not why Lizzie Halliday came here, though, Crystal, but as you said, that's another story.
Yeah. I don't remember ever hearing that story, but like I said, we'll have to have you back on and we'll talk about that.
I'll have you back on.
Oh my gosh. So John, what was it that exactly that drew you to becoming the Sullivan County historian?
Well, that wasn't something I ever really thought about doing. I was writing a column for the Times Herald Record back in starting in 1987, and I was doing a radio show, and I realized through those two mediums that people just had a real thirst for knowledge, for information about this terrific area where many of us grew up, the era of the great hotels, and they wanted to know how it all started. And so I began to write more and to talk more about local history, in more of a nostalgic vein than as a true historian. But in 1993, when the Sullivan County Board of Supervisors, which at that time governed the county, decided that they wanted to appoint a new county historian, my predecessor had been in office for 18 years.
Wow.
I don't know if they were tired of him or they just wanted to make a change for political reasons. But at any rate, they largely through contacts that my wife had made, they came to me and asked if I wanted to be the county historian. And so I said yes. It's a political appointment, and I've been fortunate enough now to have been reappointed since 1993. So I've been the county historian longer than anyone else has ever been.
Wow.
That's
almost
awesome.
30 years now.
Wow. Yeah. So you started being a county historian where you were 5.
Exactly. And Pete, I remember you before you had gray hair.
Before I had, well, when I had
how
hair.
far back we go.
Yes.
So, John, you're also founder and president of the Delaware Company. It's a non-for-profit organization, and the mission is to promote and support the history and historic landmarks of the Upper Delaware River Valley and beyond. That's pretty amazing.
You read so well.
Well,
honey.
a few years ago, we decided that we needed to have a mechanism for raising money and for helping groups or individuals who are interested in preserving history to do so. And so we formed this nonprofit called the Delaware Company. And we started out really targeting the Upper Delaware because there were lots of historic landmarks there that we felt were really being neglected and weren't getting the attention that they deserved from the people in county government in Monticello. And then we began to branch out from there as the organization grew. As we raised a few more dollars, we became a little more solvent. We were able to take on more projects. And so now we do things like walking tours, bus tours. We do history hikes. The Delaware Company has sponsored History of Sullivan County classes for the last several years prior to COVID. We're going to be operating Fort Delaware, the Museum of Colonial History in Narrowsburg, beginning in the spring. That's our latest project. We've raised money for a number of other projects, built monuments at the Minnesink Battleground, done a lot of things in Hurleyville and around. So, yeah, it's since 2012, we've been a pretty active organization.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. I know there's, like you had mentioned before, there's always pretty much the same reason why people stay here, just because of the beautiful area and why people came to Sullivan County, and just to preserve those monuments, I think is really, really important. And I think I saw one of those history events that they had coming up right before COVID. And I was trying to get to it, and I don't remember exactly what happened, but that is something that I would definitely love to attend.
Well, you know, we've been doing what we call the Magical History Tour, which is a bus trip. We pick out a specific area of the county and we spend a half day or a day driving around, and I narrate, talking about historic landmarks and the architecture along the way. COVID brought that to an end. People are not going to get on a bus until this whole COVID thing is resolved. So we had to cancel the last couple of bus trips. I'm not sure whether 2022 will bring us back to, we usually do them in June. I'm not sure if we'll be done with COVID by then or not. I guess no one really knows for sure, but we're hoping to get back on a regular schedule pretty soon and start reintroducing people to our history.
Yes, I'm definitely looking forward to that.
I love it.
Thank you so much, John. Joanna Morton Gary, how are you? Thank you for bringing your bubbly self here. Welcome to Tweed Talks.
You brought yourself to here. I kind of live here, so I was here anyway.
So I'm actually in your house. We're in your house.
Yeah. My house right now, I'm living in Ulster County near the Nevele. So I pass by it every day and I go, I miss it. That was my home for almost 20 years. I lived on grounds and, I worked there. I got bored there. They used to allow me around the kitchen, and because my schedule was basically 6 o'clock, you had a cocktail party, and then you had the dance set before the show, which is usually around 8:30. And then I would run upstairs and run the lights for whoever the comic and I saw amazing, great stars. And I would run upstairs and run the lights. And then we would go to the lounge for about 3 hours and switch off with another band or a DJ.
Wow.
3 o'clock in the morning, everything's closed. There's no place to eat, crawling back to my room looking for cold pizza.
Yummy.
Is that how you got into performing, from watching?
I got into performing years ago when I was a kid. I always had an interest in performing. I always had an interest in music. And my grandmother, God bless her, always had an interest in getting all of this energy out of her apartment for a couple of hours a day. So she sent me for singing lessons and all of that stuff. And I just continued with it. And I've given it up a couple of times and I come back. It's like the mafia. Like, you just, when you think you're out, you get that phone call and it's like, yeah, I can do a show.
I've been researching you, and you should never give it up.
Oh.
Never, never, never. And you are so good and so funny. Because that reminded me of when I used to watch our friend Sal Richards.
Oh, I loved Sal.
Right, because I remember him saying that he wasn't a comedian, he was an entertainer.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And
Definitely.
then one person that I met at the Brickman Hotel was Johnny Young. Johnny Young started singing, and then he became a comedian.
I worked with a lot of singers that, probably could have been comedians, and they were funny, but they were also really good singers. And,
Yes.
Yeah.
So I see the same with you, because you're just not a great singer. We saw you live, by the way, and you perform a little song with a couple of times, and with Slam Allen.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and you just killed it.
I love singing with Slam. He's got such great rhythm, and it's he kind of feels everything going on the stage, and it is such a warm, comfortable experience sitting in with Slam. I just hope all of this virus stuff is over soon so that I can sing 6 nights a week again.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was an amazing thing. I had, basically right out of college, I had a job singing 6 nights a week. And so here I came from the city. I was going to have a Broadway career. And I came from the city where I was sharing a 1-bedroom apartment with 6 other people.
Wow.
And if somebody wasn't at work or at an audition, there was really no place to sleep. We would timeshare the couch and the bed. So, I mean, I went from that to, they gave me at the Neville, they gave me a suite, and I had steak at night for dinner, and somebody would come and clean my room and take my laundry for a while until I realized they used bleach with everything. And so I went from, 6 kids and, all counting pennies to see if we can afford ramen noodles that night, to working in the Catskills. And, a lot of people said, well, why didn't you ever go back to Broadway? I'm like, would you?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, would you? I mean, I had it made. And, Jeff, my partner, Jeff Krolik, and I, we came up with things and bits, and there was a lot of creative freedom. I mean, we still had to do, what we had to do, but, after the first set, after the show, it was pretty much, let's play. And we did. And we had a ball. And, he passed away about 2 years ago, and I miss him dearly. There's so many times. I really wish he was here, because I would be like, I would love to have gotten him on this call. He has so many stories.
Oh, wow.
But then again, we all have stories. It was an interesting time. And I've said before, the Catskills, the Borscht Belt, was at one time, Sullivan County was as integral to American performing arts as Hollywood and Broadway.
Right.
Sure.
Right. You definitely was.
Yeah. Because all of those people came here in this crucible and then went and spread that out in the world. But this was really, this was really where you got your chops. And I just loved it.
Yeah, this is where you did your workout. You did your workout and you brought it out there.
Yep.
So
and
Joanna,
I got to.
How do you know Billy?
Billy Vine and I worked together at the Concord. No, not the Concord. Actually, I think Billy might have run our show once at the Concord. I was at the Concord, I think 3 times. Mm-hmm. And Billy might have run the show, but we really worked together at Kutcher's and at the Villa Roma.
And the Villa Roma, wow.
Villa Roma,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay, Billy. Billy is going to chat with us. He's going to tell us his story about Henny Youngman.
Okay, so
King of the one-liners.
Henny Youngman, and of course, when you say his name, you have to do the rest of his handle. Henny Youngman, king of the one-liners. So Henny comes backstage while the show is going on at the Concord and says, "Billy, when you get a minute, I got to talk to you." So he knew the ropes. He had his car outside the backstage where you had easy entry. He walked across. All right. And he says, "Billy, I hear some of the guys are doing my stuff. They're using my stuff. Is that true? They come through here all the time. You have Freddie Roman and Leni Rush and Joe Morrow and Sal Richard." I said, "Yes, it's true. A couple of the guys do a few of the things." He says, "They do please, right?" I said, "Yeah, they do. Please, Henny, they certainly do." He says, "Well, I'm going to do it for you the way it should be done, and you do it to them the way it should be done. They're doing this, Billy. Take my wife, please. That's not funny. And if somebody sees them doing Henny Youngman, and he's not funny by saying, 'Take my wife, please,' they're not going to come see me if my name's on the marquee. So I'm going to tell it to you, and you tell it to the guys as they come through. If you're going to do Henny, do it this way." I said, "Okay, go." And I knew exactly what he was going to do because I watched him, 100 times. He would take and look at you and go, "Take my wife, please. You need the hands, you need the face. You can't go, 'Take my wife, please.' That's not funny." I said, I wouldn't laugh at it, but 'Take my wife, please' is funny. But I said, I laugh at that, Henny. I'll pass it along." So it's crazy how someone reaches stardom like that and is worried that other guys are doing a line or two from his show, but completely wrong. Yeah. But it was great to hear him do that. I would love to tell you, something about Joan Rivers, because we recently had to put her to sleep forever. She worked the Concord all the time, and she with Melissa, her daughter, and Edgar, her husband. He was a trumpet player, but he conducted with the trumpets for the downbeats, for the cutoffs, all like this. So I'm watching her show, and I said to her, "Joan, I think you got to do something about Edgar. He's out on the pulpit with a fake music stand with no music in front of him. He's got the trumpet, and you got him for the cut off. He does the start of the bow music, and then he does the cut off for trumpet and stands there." She says, "Like what?" I said, "Okay, what you got to do is you got to put a baton in his hand and let him use the baton. You won't pay him the first trumpet player seat money. You'll pay him the conductor money. And that's the way you'll get your money come back to you." She goes, "That's a great idea. Great idea. A baton in his hand." So anyway, they're coming up from New York City to do a show. She was subbing for Johnny Carson. And I get a call backstage, and it's a call for Joan Rivers from her driver for me backstage. So I get on the phone, and now I'm talking to the driver, and he says, "We just got off the Quickway, and we're on 17, but smoke was coming out of the front of the car, and I pulled over." So it was overheating. So I said, "Listen, go back to the car and tell Joan and Edgar and Melissa, the daughter, that I'm on my way." Hung up the phone, went to the front door, jumped in the hotel limo. It always had a full tank of gas. Jumped in the hotel limo, told the head doorman, "I'm taking this. We'll be back in an hour and a half or two." Went down, picked him up, put him in the car. The punchline to the story is, on the way back, I said, "Joan, this doesn't ever have to happen to you again. She said, what? The car broke, the belt, he said, or something? I said, yeah. You know, in Washington, they have those black Suburbans go by, 4 or 5 of them in a row. Half of them are empty, sweetheart. They're going to a meeting, and if a flat comes, they're not going to stop, take their jacket off, jack it up, and do it. There's empty limos. You get out of the Suburban, you get in the one behind you, they keep going. Same with you. You're the star of the show. You're going to get a limousine to pick you up at your New York building where she lived, which I went to, which many things happened there, was great stories. So I said, you're going to get picked up with a limo, and behind it will be exact duplicate, ready to go, air conditioning, no odors from prior events in the back. Okay, that's what I put down. She said, Billy, you can just write all this down, please. I'll have it put in. When they sign for me, I'm going to get a second limo with a driver, knowing where he's got. I don't have to pull over in Jersey because the driver pays for gas. All the tricks in a row, you know? So great stuff with Joan. And then she went for the operation and went to sleep. So isn't that sad, you know?
Yeah. Wow, Billy, thank you so much for sharing that with us. So we are going to let these 3 guests go and bring in our next group. Thank you, John, for coming on.
John,
my pleasure. Thanks for having me
again.
John, be good, be careful, and
good to see you, Billy.
Hopefully, I'll see you if we get the guys who ran the backstages and the activity kind of meeting for all the old guys in the Concord. And I mean,
there you go.
That would be great.
Billy, we have to have you back on when that book comes out. We're looking forward to that.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Love you, BB.
Joanna, thank you so much for joining us.
Joanna, we're going to have, I think everybody that's on today, we want to have separate in the future.
Yes,
because,
yes.
I have stories, but I have to wait until everyone's dead.
Oh, there's that kind of story.
That's kind.
All right.
Thank you guys for joining us. Have a great night and have a happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Okay. So we're going to show some pictures here. This is me and hey.
Oh, we know that guy.
You can stay on.
All right. So we're going to bring Leni Binder. Hello, everybody.
How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Hello. Good. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Oh, man, I can't find my notes. Oh, there we go.
Okay. Hold on a second. We never had that many people on at the same time, so I had to make some adjustment. And there we go.
All right.
How's everyone doing?
Great. How are you?
I am super
Very good.
I understand that your green room is so busy that some of our fellow friends can't get on.
Yes. I apologize for that, but we're gonna have to bring them on another day. They kept telling me that, you know, we could have up to 15, but that wasn't the case.
Well, we hope you get to bring Andrew on and Alan tonight.
Okay, so if they come in later, we could probably have them on. And
great.
Let me bring in Joe Iaquinto.
Hi, Joe.
Hold on, you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes, we can.
You can hear me. It's Iaquinto. After 75 years, it's Iaquinto.
Iaquinto. Yeah.
Remember we met back on the Mayflower, you and I.
Yes, we met a long time ago when I was 6 years old and kicking.
You used to bench press me.
Oh my God!
I did a lot of crazy things back then. But
great to see you. Hi, everybody.
How are you?
Hi.
Joe, I thought you were 39, Joe. Come on.
I have been 39 for quite a while.
You and me both.
I'm just glad to be thrown into the maelstrom with you guys.
Our pleasure.
So I guess we start with Leni.
Yeah. Trustee for the Village of Woodridge, Sullivan County Legislator, box office manager for Forestburg Playhouse, if I got it all in there.
Well, I worked at real work, which I'll tell you about.
Uh-huh.
When you asked me to come on and you were talking about the Borsch Belt, I said I have a completely different perspective. Because when you talk about the Borsch Belt, you're really talking about the public concepts, such as the guests you had on, those that ran the hotels, worked there, worked in the community, and those who owned the hotels.
Mm-hmm.
But the Borsch Belt, although everybody thinks of Neverly Falls View, and by the way, it wasn't just Sullivan County, you had Ulster County, and probably a few other places. There were a few leading into Orange, Delaware, but mostly Sullivan and the town of Wawarsing and the town of Rochester and Ulster. My husband's family was in the fuel oil, and we dealt with all the hotels. And as Joanne said, the rest of her stories are after everyone's dead. I'll tell you about everybody who left owing us money. I mean, that's the other part of the Catskills. The hotels were the pretty and the glamorous part. But the Borsch Belt wasn't just the hotels. The concept came from the economy. Everybody in some way or other probably was involved with a hotel. Either they worked their weekends, or they sold product there, or they took guests there, or something. But they didn't all make money at it. And the other thing was the Borsch Belt was not just the hotels. I was raised in a rooming house. It was called a Lane. In Yiddish, that means cook alone. There were old rooming houses. They were big farmhouses. People first rented rooms. Then they added bungalows and they added a wing. And everybody either cooked together in one big kitchen and had a little place to eat, and they had their own bedroom somewhere. Or else, in our case, we took an old porch, divided it, and everyone had their little 2-burner stove and their own refrigerator, and they had their own kitchen. It came up to the waist, so everybody always knew what everybody else was doing. And I can't say it was bad growing up. My brother and I grew up on a chicken farm. That wasn't great, but just the smell, folks, just the smell.
I would imagine.
If you have a kid who's not doing well in school, give them a few hours in a chicken coop. That'll do it.
That'll do it.
That'll do it. My brother went to medical school and I became a teacher. We didn't want to stay on the farm. But the fact is, though, that I don't have great memories. I was a little kid, and at 4 or 5 years old, we were helping my parents run the place, clean the place, deliver milk, do the dairy orders, and clean up the refrigerators afterwards. So it was not good. Ann Brzezinski, who was a former member of the Board of Elections and an officer in the town of Fallsburg, her grandfather had a very large colony near us in Mountaindale, which is where I'm from. And she and I, when we get onto a panel, are the only ones that don't have all these glorious stories. We do have glorious stories, and it was a great way to grow up, but it wasn't all the glory. And by the way, one thing I'd like to add about the Brickman, for many, many years, the magazine, the telephone book had a picture of a beautiful swimming pool on the back cover. It was the Brickman pool, and my uncle, who was a contractor from Mountaindale, Joe Kraft, had built it, and he used that pool in his ads. So he built all the buildings there. And in fact, when Browns had that horrible fire, they called him in, and in less than 2 months, he had that new playhouse up and ready.
Wow.
So, but these were things. That was the economy I'm talking about. Those of us who worked on the other end. We ran a dairy. We sold to the bungalow colonies and these places. Alan Frishman's grandfather, and I always say this, one of the nicest, sweetest, best people I've ever met. Wonderful man, honest integrity. And I mean, you had a lot of that. This was a Jewish generation, mostly Jewish, that came up. Some of them had been survivors of the Holocaust, or their family was. They came up. New York City, where they lived crowded into apartments, this was their chance to get away for a few weeks. But the hotels, people, very rarely did people go up for the whole summer, one or two. But mostly, if you were coming up for the season, you took your kids and you went to a bungalow colony, because that you could afford. That all fell down. You really have to get John Conway to give one of his great lectures on this. That fell apart with suburbia. People began moving to Long Island. I mean, we could go on for hours, just as the artists can tell you about their anecdotes. We can talk about the demise of the Catskills and the change and the transition, because we're still transitioning. But my picture is not the beautiful, beautiful picture that the stars have. I mean, it wasn't bad growing up. The communities were wonderful. You met good people. You met bad people. You met nice people. You had any place you went. It was a microcosm of life. But in the late 50s and 60s, I was going to college, and when I came back, the area was already changing. The hotels were changing. The colonies were being sold off, because what happened? You sent your kids to college because you didn't want them to work like you did, cleaning out a dirty refrigerator at the end of the season. So they went to college. My brother became a doctor. We have another doctor sitting here. And what happened? We didn't want the colonies.
Right.
Those that used to live upstairs over the stores in South Fallsburg,
Want to live there.
they built nice houses, and then you began to rent them to a lower income level, and that's how your villages changed too. I mean, it's not just the beautiful story. It's not that it's bad, but it's yes, Patti, I see your message. My uncle was very, very close with all of you. He never stopped talking. In fact, I have a picture of him with your parents. And if you get to Pedro and he tells you how, I'll try to find it for you and get it to you. That's an aside. I should have written that, but at any rate, that's my view of the Catskills. I've always worked there. We were in the fuel oil business, or my husband's family was, for over 50 years. You meet a lot of people. I was in the dairy business, and it was just, you went there, you met the people, you delivered the milk, and Sunday, after the milk delivery, you went up with the bill and collected the money. Because that's the other part of the Catskills. People lived on paper here. At the end of the season, you went up and they paid you their balance with a note. You went into the bank and you discounted the note, and you lived on that cash. And God forbid they didn't open in the spring, you had to pay that money back. It was problem. You were basically living on their credit. And a lot of people wouldn't pay you. They would go on a trip. I always said the demise of the hotels came. The original owner said, I want to go on vacation. I got to replace the carpets. It was a bad season. We'll do the carpets, and I guess I don't go on vacation. Then their kids took over, and the kids said, want to go on vacation. I want to do the carpets. Bad season. I guess we don't do the carpets. And that was the change from generation to generation, and that what I think was the real decline of the Catskills.
Borrow the money.
Wow.
Yeah. One thing I'll throw in too. I was thinking of COVID. John had brought up with his books, and his books are great. And I feel very guilty now, because we were in the first legislature. We never gave him a raise. I don't even know if he ever got a salary. I don't think so. His predecessor did. And shame on us for never paying him. But sorry. At any rate, the only thing that I can remember vaguely was the polio coming in the 50s.
Wow.
Maybe a little more. And a lot of people were afraid to come up here. The swimming pools were closed. I do not know, and I don't know if anyone's done it, a study on how it might have affected the hotels. However, I do know that if COVID hit today, or polio hit today, and they dealt with it like COVID, the hotels and the Borcht Belt would have been soup.
Finished. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Leni. Let's just post this one comment, Barry Edelman, at the bottom. He says, "Thank you, Leni, for a realistic view of the economy and reality of the Catskills." Yes, we definitely.
Yeah, I'm one of the few honest politicians who'll give you a real point of view.
I love it. Okay, who are we gonna chat with next, Pedro?
Well, okay, let me. Oh, well, we have Robin and Dr. Peter Allen Chester talking about nice guy.
Uh-oh.
Is that?
I'm waving to you because we're neighbors up and down,
Yes,
off yonder a little bit.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yes, we are. We're neighbors.
Really?
As a matter of fact, I was talking to Robin that maybe when we do the next show on this, that we'll have Peter come in and co-host with us.
Be my privilege and my honor. I am a great fan of yours, and I look at those pictures of you doing those planche push-ups.
Oh my goodness!
I tried it. I tried it once. Fortunately, my daughter and my granddaughters were there to hold the part of me that you can support without anybody holding it. If you haven't looked at Pete's pictures of doing these incredible, you talk about things that are just unbelievable. And then Crystal is an old Crystal. I'm going to say this from the heart. You are an old-time glamorous movie star. They just don't make movie stars like this. You have to see her. And as Leni, who I miss the legislative plates, seeing the legislative plates in various places, for crying out loud.
I turned it in. Too many cops stopped me.
No, you will always be the legislative.
Thank you.
Because, as you said, because you're honest, and you gave us such a crystal clear picture of the economy, that a slice of the Borscht Belt slice of Americana, that it's more than the hotels. It's a whole lot more than just the tumblers and the entertainers. There was an economy up here that was vibrant for even though Leni's 39 and I'm 38 and you're 36 and 37, 35, 34, this economy was vibrant up here for almost a century, from the Jewish farmers to the communities to vibrant little towns. I remember as a kid, I was in Greenfield Park at Grand Mountain, down the road from Mountaindale. I walked to Mountaindale.
I remember Grand Mountain.
Yes, I was hoping you
brothers owned it across the street from each other.
I was hoping that you wouldn't, because it's possible that we may have fallen into one of those categories.
No, we're not going there, because that's one of them.
But the oil is still somewheres there if you'd like to reclaim it, so that we could end all of this. But in a serious note, these vibrant, gorgeous little towns. I mean, Mountaindale, holy cow, vibrant, gorgeous, beautiful little towns and the whole.
And they were safe.
They were safe. They were safe for everybody. And then that was interesting because, in my own case, the one of the advantages in working at smaller hotels, whether we call them 250 houses, sometimes we call them schlock houses. The bottom line is you got a different view. I mean, we had some of the Rodney Dangerfield came to Grand Mountain. The story of Jimmy Nelson and Danny O'Day, Nestles. When I was in the dining room working as a waiter, I'd have the table with the entertainers. So Jimmy Nelson and Danny O'Day come, and he's got Farfel. So I am saying to myself, let me see what this guy is going to pull, because he looks awfully hungry. So I figured, he says to me, well, I'm going to have, I'll have medium rare roast beef. And Farfel, what would you like? And I'm standing here saying to myself, and I'm entertaining this. This guy is gonna make me go in the kitchen, and I have to tell the boss, listen, the act wants medium rare roast beef, and the dummy, the dog dummy wants to have an end cut, and the other dummy wants to have a blood rare piece. But just to go back to what Leni had said, the economy up here was incredible. It was a learning experience for those who worked here, a learning experience for those who worked in the front of the house, learning experience for those who worked in the back of the house. Pete and I were talking about this the other day. For one, and I know for most of us up here who work, you'd say, oh, well, the Catskills. That's where all the white Jewish boys worked. You had as many people of color working. We didn't see that. We didn't see that. There was no,
we were integrated.
We were integrated, and it didn't matter. I mean, I no problem. I was buddy with Spencer, who peeled the potatoes, as I was with Tony Navarro, who was the chef. It didn't matter. We saw other people here to make a buck and to learn things and to interact. And on hours, since we worked 28 or 29 hour days, 8 days a week, we tried to squeeze out as much personal time. So, I remember when I was about 17, 18 years old, we'd be sitting in back of the nightclub next to the basketball courts, kitchen staff, dining room staff, drinking beer and BSing about life in general. So nobody. It was interesting because, as Leni pointed out, it was an experiment, a successful one for almost 100 years in economics, in politics, in interpersonal relations, and we made it. We made a whole lot of money. I'm going to segue it for 1 second, and then I'm gonna stop because it's my passion. I can go on for a long time. I live up here. I've been up here for 62 of my 39 years. And I don't cry when I see what's left of Grand Mountain. By the way, is still operating. I don't cry when I see it falling apart. I look at it and I say, "Holy cow, that's me swimming in the swimming pool. That's me walking through those damn kitchen doors, saying, I feel the top plate on the left side about ready to come down." So I look at that with the memory, but just to spin it around, Robin and Alan Frishman, a couple of other people, myself, Andrew Jacobs, who's a very noted journalist, an initiative called the Catskill Resort Museum, and we have a website, catskillresortmuseum.com, is something that we're looking to develop, to do it in stages, to start with a pop-up and then hopefully go to a larger facility to preserve everything that everyone's talked about, to preserve.
I love that. I love that.
To preserve the memories, to preserve everybody's memories, to preserve Pete's memories of martial arts, to preserve Leni's memories of growing up here, of the kid and the chicken. I smell it because Grand Mountain had a small chicken coop also. And I smell that. This is going to be a rough night for me because it's here. For everybody who contributes. So you're looking at this to preserve it so that, the generation says, "Holy cow, you mean you did all of this?" I said, "Oh yeah, I did all of this. I did that. I did all of it." When I was maitre d' at the Aladdin, I was wearing a tuxedo Saturday night in the middle of the summer, and there was a problem with the TV antenna. In those days, there's no cable. So I had to adjust the trim. I don't know what the trim is. I'm a nice Jewish boy wearing a tuxedo playing maitre d'. And the boss says, "Listen, the trim, what's the trim?" "Oh, it's by the antenna, So I'm climbing up the fire escape and I'm adjusting the trim because if I wouldn't have done it, the guests would have been PO'd, wouldn't have gotten the right kind of tips, and we would have been up the creek. I didn't fall off the roof, although statistics would show us people didn't die because the coleslaw was mixed without gloves. People didn't, People didn't die because they took the cold water plunge at the Concorde. Some of you may know about that. There was a long tube, right, where you'd slide into cold water to slam the doors shut after you would come out of the sauna. So and I'm going to shut up. You can tell me to shut up. I will in a minute. Here's the last comment. When all of this to do was going on with Mr. Capelli buying the Concorde and a world-class resort, and then Genting, world-class resort, a destination. We already did that. We already did that. We already did that. Any Saturday night at the Concorde Gold Coast, which was where the Muckety Muck said, you would say, "Oh, wait a minute, there's Lucille Ball and Gary Morton." Well, we've been there already. "Oh, wait a minute, isn't that Floyd Patterson? Isn't that Muhammad Ali? Isn't that Rocky Marciano?" And a very dear friend of the Grossinger family was Eleanor Roosevelt. And last thing I promised in 1964, I think it was, when the hospital was dedicated in Ellenville. Lyndon Johnson was the first sitting president to spend the night in the Borcht Belt. Okay,
He stayed in the Tower of the Nevele.
Stayed in the Tower of the Nevele. Abe Steinhorn was the owner of Grand Mountain. My father and I we were friendly with the Resnick family, not the Mountaindale Resnicks, the Channel Master Resnicks in Ellenville. The hand of the President of the United States, big tower. Oh, this guy! I said, man, this guy should be a professional wrestler. He's like 6'6", big guy. We were already there. Okay, and that's my last thing. I promise I won't say anything anymore because I'm stealing the stage. Thank you, Legislady. You'll always be Legislady.
Well,
that's the last thing I'm going to say.
Thank you for sharing that. We're going to post a couple comments that I think are hysterical. Then we're going to jump over to Robin, who is now officially our biggest supporter. I saw that post at least 6 times over the past couple days. Okay, so from Jennifer Lorenzo, I attended a lecture years ago and they mentioned that many of the people who delivered the meat to the Catskills would have their cars stall on the Wurtsboro Hill on 17 because the frozen meat in the cars made them too heavy. So, and then Abby says, so many cars burn up on that hill. No doubt Joan Rivers' car was smoking there. Oh, gosh. Robin, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Robin, tell us a little bit about the reunion. I was supposed to attend. I spoke to you about it. That I was supposed to attend one of the reunion, but we were away because we always working.
Always.
We either have a gymnastic meet or actually we were at that to Bob. That Bob was supposed to come.
Bob Golden,
also.
yes. Mm-hmm.
But then we had an event at that time. So how did you come up with that?
So I know that I mentioned to you, growing up, my family vacationed very frequently in the Catskills. And during my college years, I actually worked at the Homework Lodge Hotel. Mm-hmm. And it was during the summer of 2018, I was getting together with some of my friends in Ellenville for a little reunion. And we attended an informative gathering of people who were going to learn a little bit about the project for the Castkill Resort Museum. Mm-hmm. And after that, we went out for a bite to eat. And I said, I think it would be just a fabulous idea to have a reunion for all the former staff of all the hotels. Mm-hmm. I mean, for all years and all of the hotels. And that's how that took off. So it really, it was a labor of love. We had it at the Villa Roma, which, I mean, a lot of people felt that maybe that wasn't the right place to have it because it really didn't perhaps have the true flavor of some of the other hotels. Mm-hmm. But I have to tell you, they did a phenomenal job. Everybody was so curious to be a part of it, and the staff at the Villa Roma. We even had Paul Carlucci come to our Saturday evening gala dinner, and he served just to be a part of the evening. He wanted to, hear the stories and hear more about what, we were about from back in the day. And so it was a fabulous weekend. We had people tell stories all weekend. And honestly, at the end of the weekend, grown adults cried because that was a time, I guess, that in their life that we were just young and we were just there having a good time. We didn't realize that we were actually part of an era that would be a culture that would change the landscape of American, history, particularly Jewish American history. And it wasn't just Jewish people that worked in the Catskills. We were a mix of everything, like Peter said. And, but we really were part of the foundations of that great culture. It wasn't just the guests or the hotel owners. It was also the staff. And for me, it was where I learned about sharing with other people, time management skills, just so many things. And what's interesting is that if you were to ask many of us that worked at different hotels, we probably would all tell you a lot of the same thing. But we could all share the same story, the same sentiments, the same love for the Borscht Belt, and yet we never met. So it really was a time unto itself. Like Peter always says, a slice of Americana. And I know, Leni, that I'm sure that it was difficult at times for people who live there. A friend of mine that I met through my networking for the reunion said to me, I like to separate us as the thems and the you, because for those of us that lived here, it wasn't always a picnic. He said, you people would come from the New York suburbs. I'm from the suburbs, Rockland County, and, from New York, and a lot of you were college kids. You came here, you made money, you went back to school, but we stayed behind, and it wasn't always easy. And I totally understand that. I am also on the board with Peter and Alan for the future Catskill Resort Museum project.
That was going to be my next question. Yes, Robin, please go ahead and talk about that.
It really is our dream, our collective dream, to make this happen. Right now, I wish we could get Andrew on, but we are now a really cohesive board. There's a lot of momentum, a lot of changes taking place, and we see that this is going to come to fruition. Maybe not on the grand scale that people were actually speaking of before, but we want to make it happen. Quick, over the next couple of years. We're taking baby steps, and we'll climb on the ladder along the way and add on. But we want this to happen because this is such an important part of history. Think about when everyone came to the country. I mean, at one point, I worked for the Toro Synagogue Foundation in Newport. Everybody came to New York. And then they went and traveled a little bit further up north and a little bit further, down south. And that's how, the whole country really evolved. And at that time, Jews were not welcome to vacation in Rockland and Westchester. I remember that time growing up. There was a lot of anti-Semitism. And so that's why my family vacationed in the Catskills frequently. It was a welcoming place. And, preserving this time in history, I think would mean a lot to a lot of people, particularly our chair and president, Jack Godfrey. This was, his little, baby, and we're trying to let that baby grow up. So we hope people will come along and support us. We know that this is an idea that has been in the works for some time, but sometimes things, move slowly and then pick up momentum. The journey starts with small steps, and we're in it for the duration.
Yes. Awesome. And Robin, that's potentially the summer of 2023?
Yes. We are, we have a lot of things that we're planning, possibly another staff reunion or reunion for all former, guests, whoever would like to join us. We envision it as a some sort of stepping stone to a bigger and better project. Peter, if you want to add, or Alan, you want to add. I don't want to give away anything, but we, see it as a celebratory start. And so we hope people will join us on, make our vision become a reality.
Jennifer was just kind enough to post the Catskill Resort Museum.com link.
Thank you
for that. Let's post a couple comments, then we are going to go over to Joe, right? Let's go over to Joe. The Borcht Belt needs its own. Jennifer, I agree.
Yes.
Jennifer started a wonderful podcast. I have to say, we have spoken. And what's so great? It's that, again, Jennifer and I have never met. We've spoken on the phone. We have FaceTime the same way, Pedro and Crystal, that we have spoken. And already I feel a bond with you in the same way I feel I'm already bonded with Peter and Alan. I mean, those are like my two big brothers already. And because we just share so much in common from one particular area. And there's so many other people that feel the same way. There's so many fabulous stories.
Yes.
Some that are even very heartwarming. If Andrew were to get on tonight, he would tell you he wrote and produced the documentary, The Four Seasons Lodge. I mean,
oh yes, love that.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, who would think that survivors of the worst atrocity in humanity would be able to come together and have happy moments, dance and find love and comedy, even having been right. And they are a very big part of the Borcht Belt. I have friends that I worked with who would tell me that the first time that they ever saw concentration camp numbers were on some of the guests. And that's a very integral part of the Borcht Belt culture. And I'm so thrilled that Andrew joined us, because I'm very involved with the Holocaust Education Center here in Rhode Island. And I feel very strongly, that we preserve this era.
133197, my father is a Auschwitz survivor. So I understand that, the quick comment is, he talked about it, but I never fully understood it, because a lot of the other kids' fathers were Army veterans. And I didn't quite understand what that was at that particular point. But yeah, Robin's point, certainly very, very well taken.
But Peter, I'm going to ask Alan to tell us a little bit more about his personal museum. And I just want to say that for those of you who are watching, I hope you're still watching, if you have memorabilia, please don't throw it out. I know, I gave some of the things that I had many years ago to Phil Brown, who started the Catskill Institute. Oh my gosh, this goes back over 20 years ago. But I know, our kids today, like I recently downsized. I saved my daughter's teeth. And she looked at me like I'm nuts. They don't want these things. They don't want our china. They don't want our memorabilia. But don't get rid of the Catskill memorabilia. Alan has a ton of it in his home, and he'll make room for more. We all will, hold on to it dearly for you. Someone is that I never even met contacted me and said, "Can I have your information? I want to put you in my will to will our Catskill memorabilia to you."
Wow.
Awesome.
Yes. So please do not throw it out. Save it. It is so important. Alan.
Well, for you guys that are on the board for the Catskill Resort Museum, if you need some feet on the ground,
thank you. We are going to need a lot of support.
I'm on my way down now.
Okay.
The biggest thing, this is a really good, strong board right now, and we're making strides. It's going to happen because we're going to make it happen. We really believe it. We feel it. We're really into it. And it's things like this just don't happen overnight. So we'll need all the support we get. Feet on the ground and money money to the Catskill Resort Museum.com. Every donation adds up. Whatever, whatever you want to give us, we'll take it.
All right.
Awesome.
So now we have Joe and
Joe,
Alan.
yes.
Now, one thing they have in common is that they both play music.
Oh.
Oh yeah, but I feel like the band that like came on after the Beatles with this crowd. I mean, you guys are like, you're up here. I mean, no, really, it's a pleasure to listen to everybody and what you have to bring to this, and it's very eye opening. I didn't even know about the Catskills when I went up to the Catskills. I grew up in Brooklyn. I grew up in Sheepshead Bay, and in some serious poverty and all that stuff. So when I finally got up to the Catskills, I couldn't believe it. I didn't even know that existed.
I just want to interrupt you, Joe. I want to tell you a quick story. When we had our reunion, no, I'll be real fast. When we had our reunion, I hooked up with Gabriel Espinosa. Do you know him? You know him, right?
I know him.
So, he said, well, I don't know anything really, about all these people, but I'll interview them. Well, he came to Saturday night and he interviewed people that were at the dinner event. He learned so much that he came back on Sunday because he was so interested in the culture. He came back and, we've developed a relationship and so on and so forth. So I say, if you learn something new every day, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joe.
That's okay. I kind of fell asleep. No, that's right. So
Joe
anywho,
Joe is very funny.
I am funny, and my kids always point at me and say you're funny. And I don't know, but I believe them. But I'll just tell you briefly what happened with us. I was in a band in high school, and probably I must have missed Larry Strickler. Was he on already tonight?
No, he was on
earlier.
He's still watching.
Okay, hi Larry. I saw Larry in September. We had a little bit of a Sheepshead Bay high school reunion in Manhattan. Anyway, so I was in a band, and we wanted the gig. We wanted the gig up at the Brickman. So it was either late 75 or early 76 we auditioned. And our guitarist, Seth, our guitar player, Seth Rosenberg, whose family had a bungalow colony and was outside of Ellenville. I forget, he told me where it was, and now I wrote it down, and I can't read my own writing. It was right outside of Ellenville. So I'd gone up there in 1975, and I fell in love with it. Anyway, we wanted the gig. We went out, we bought these atrocious suits, these matching suits that were probably flammable. They were horrible. If you wore them too long, I mean, you literally started to get dizzy. So we all had the suits, and we wanted this gig. So we auditioned for the gig. We wound up getting the gig, and it was 10 weeks at the Brickman, which was fantastic. I mean, it was unbelievable. We went up there. We played, I think it was called the Playhouse. Pete, do you remember that? Right? The Playhouse. It was a big, big room, which was great. I mean, it had a big stage, had a nice sound system, and we played 2 hours a night, 6 nights a week. The rest of the time we had was hours, to do whatever we wanted to do with. And it was unbelievable. We swam in the pool you talked about, and all that good stuff. And we met everybody. I mean, we hung out with the waiters. We hung out with the talent. We hung out with Davey Carr. You mentioned somebody mentioned Sal Richards before, who was wonderful. May he rest in peace. Just incredible people, and we learned so much about everything that summer. It was just absolutely unbelievable. I can't say that word enough. We played a lot of music. We also started writing music and became very serious about that because we had so much free time. So what happened at the end of that summer was it really changed my life because I went back to Brooklyn and had to finish out high school, and I wanted no part of it. I was so depressed on that ride back home. I had to figure out a way to not do that anymore. And so I quit school. I had a kind of a weird childhood. My parents died a year apart from each other. So in 1971, I was brought up by my sister and brother-in-law, which is where I came into music. They were both musical, and that's when I started playing instruments. So by 75, 76, I had actually felt good about myself again and was starting to actually have a life. So the Brickman Hotel meant a lot to me because it really made me feel like there was hope, not just for me, but for everything. And I had such a great summer. I'm sure, you guys have brought up a lot of the stuff that I was going to talk about. I mean, there's so many people that we hung out with and met. We used to go to Lee's Inn. Do you remember Lee's Inn?
Yes.
Anybody remember that? It was a little tavern down the hill. And, that was back in... Yeah, and that was back in the day. I mean, we were young. I was 16. The guys in the band were like 16, 17. Nobody proofed anybody. We'd go in there and drink beer all night.
Oh my God.
I think we made enough money playing music, honestly, to like buy beer and Slim Jims. I don't think I ever ate a meal. That's what we lived on, beer and Slim Jims. But
well, the meal was provided for us.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing. I got in trouble because we used to eat with the guests. Our band, we were the rock band. We had the rock band and the show band, and the show band guys, ate. Those guys ate in the employee dining room. We ate with the guests because they wanted us to fraternize and do that whole thing. And I was trying to save money, so I could get home and buy a car or something. And so I didn't want to tip as much as the other guys tipped. And so I got thrown out of the dining room and I had to eat with the other guys. But oh my God, so many memories. And then I wound up going up the next year. It was different. They had changed everything. They had shut down the Playhouse. They put the band in a smaller room. It just wasn't the same thing. But I got a lot of relationships built from that, that summer that I stayed up there. So wound up going up to Kutcher's, and somebody mentioned Johnny Ewan before, right?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. I go up to Kutcher's. Now, I don't do drugs anymore, but I smoked like my weight in marijuana back then. So the rule was when you were playing a show, if you got a comedian, there was really no music to read. You would probably just do something to bring them on, and then they do their routine, and then you play something to bring them off, and that's it. Well, when we found out Johnny Ewan was coming up, we figured that's what was going to happen. So the drummer and I, a guy named Joel DiRuggiero, who was a monster drummer, he was in the show band at the Brickman when we were up there. So we get completely wasted, and Johnny Ewan comes on, and he hands us a book at rehearsal about this thick with music.
A lot of material.
Yeah, a lot of material, like serious material he did. He did like Broadway show material.
Yes.
And I started to hyperventilate because I'm like, I couldn't believe I had to sit there and try and read these notes. And so I had to get through that. Learned a very valuable lesson at that point, which was don't do that again. and that was crazy. And man, I just, there were just so many people that came and went out of that summer and made an impact on me. And it changed everything about me, and it made me get serious about music. And, I had quite a career since then. I'm a broken down nobody right now, but,
No.
I mean, who's not?
No, you are. Yeah. We got to bring you to play some music one day. You mentioned Johnny Ewan. He was my student,
Oh, wow. Look at that. Yeah, he did. They call me Bruce. Yeah.
Yeah. Just before he made that movie, I taught him some of the moves that he used in the movie. And if you watch the movie again, there's a character that was named because of me. Little Patti. It was because of my name. So, yeah, we were very good friends. And I was supposed to be in that movie, but my daughter was born and I didn't go.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's what happened to me and Johnny.
That's very cool. That's very cool. He was...
Yeah,
he was great. The last thing I'll say about the music up there. So we go up there and we, this is amazing. We think we're rock stars. Meanwhile, where they put us to live was called a frat house. And the frat house at the Brickman was just terrible. I mean,
you mean the flop house?
The flop house. Until this day, like when I walk into a house or somewhere that's got mold, it's like that's the smell.
Oh man.
Takes me right back to the frat house. But you know what? I mean, seriously, we thought this was heaven. This was amazing. We're a band. This is unbelievable. So we're up there, we're hanging out and all that stuff. And then the first week we're up there, we just started to, have a little bit too much fun. We got a little too loud. We got a little crazy. So Murray Posner calls us in the next day. Seth and I, we're the two leaders of the band. He basically says, as nicely as possible, he's like saying, listen, guys, I don't want to have to replace you. I don't, it's going to be a hassle and this, that, and the other thing. And I just, cool it, and we don't want to have to get you out of here. It was the most polite threat that I had ever had in my life at that point. But it made, again, it was a life lesson. It made sense. What he was basically saying was, you got it good. We like you. You're here. Stay for the 10 weeks, but don't do that again.
So we worked hard and we played hard.
We worked hard and we played hard. Yeah. And it just, you learned also how to become an entertainer up there, because that's what it was about. I mean, you even on a rock band level, I think that's what we showed. And we were a little bit, a cut above some of the other bands that were playing there, because we weren't just a rock band. Do you want me to get that?
No, she's on mute right now.
We weren't just a rock band. We had horns. We had horns. We would play Chicago. We would play all sorts of stuff. So they would also hire us out to some of the other, the bungalow colonies and some of the other hotels we would go and play. It was a lot of fun. So when I left there, I left New York a couple of years after that. I moved to Los Angeles for a long time. I felt that I had a leg up on a lot of guys because of, coming through the Catskills. You know what I mean? So it's like, I really felt that helped me. And I can't say it enough. I can't stress it enough. It's definitely the summer that changed my life. It really was.
Yeah. For me too.
Me too. Those summers.
Alan.
Yes. Thank you for having me on tonight.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
I wasn't sure we were going to have you, but then I was glad that I saw that earlier today, and I said, "Oh, good, he's coming on." And you had the museum. You collecting stuff.
Well, I'm sort of the bricks and mortar of the Castkill Resort Museum project, in that my house is sort of a museum. I mean, I have huge collections of a lot of things. I'm wearing a T-shirt from the Olympic Hotel. And behind me is a sign from the Pines Hotel, the children's dining room. So when you do come to my house and you walk in, it's a museum of the 50s. And I have a tremendous amount of items from the hotels, the bungalow colonies, and I've been collecting since I was a kid. So people get very nostalgic when they visit my house. And it brings back a lot of memories, which is great. But I wanted to touch on a few things. Like Leni said, it was different growing up here and working as opposed to everybody that came up and got a job. At around age 13, my dad was teaching me how to fix coin-operated wash machines. That was one of the businesses we had. And because I had smaller arms than my dad, he was a plumber, I said he had arms of steel because they were built up. He couldn't put his hand in to do a certain pump job without taking half the machine away. So he taught me how to do that so fast, and he'd always take me on the job to do that kind of work. But the other thing is we were plumbers up here. So we were the guys that got to open the water and close the water, that everybody thought just magically you opened up a valve and the water came on in the bungalows. That's so far from the truth. You have no idea. And so, through the years, my family is a bunch of storytellers. And I collected a bunch of those stories and heard some stories from some local people. And this is the first book that I had out, which is called Tales of a Catskill Mountain Plumber. And you can get it on Amazon.
Wonderful.
And it's got a tremendous number of stories in it. Many you will relate to, whether you stayed in a hotel or a bungalow colony or visited. And today, I just about finished the book. The second book should be out soon, called More Borscht from a Catskill Mountain Plumber. And the stories in that book are really a collection. Like, we're all talking about the stories. This is a collection of stories from other people that I've listened to and heard from the past couple of years when I would do book talks and interviews. And even at the reunion, I stole some stories from people. So it's a great collection of more stories from other people. And they had to be funny stories, because that's the stuff that I really like to make people laugh. As Joe said, I was in a rock band for a while. We played Kutcher's, the Pines. The Homewack was the last place that we played. And I remember when we were playing in Kutcher's, the song Hey Jude had come out. and Matty Kutcher. We just finished playing the song. Matty Kutcher walked into wherever we were playing, the teen room. We finished one song and we're like, we got to play that again. She just walked in the room. Come on, we got to do it. Played it again, and everybody's like, why are you doing it again? Because Matty's here. Had to please the people the best you could.
Yep.
But another funny story. Larry mentioned Aaron Reich's Play Rest Hotel. My grandfather was the plumber there. And in the lobby, they had a pipe that went into this little pool, and it said, the coldest, freshest spring water. But the reality was they had a pipe from his well. They stuck it through a refrigerator and chilled it. It was almost like ice. And everybody would take a glass. Oh, is this a Machaya? This is the best water I ever had from the spring. They're not true.
Yes.
Also, collecting of money was quite difficult for everybody up here. And I heard a lot of stories. Some of them are in the book. But in the second volume, Darryl Kaplan told me a story about a chicken farmer who used to bring his eggs to one of the hotels that was always a late payer. And he came in and he brought, a couple flats of eggs. And of course, the owner wasn't there. And the manager, whatever, said, well, we can't pay you today. We don't have He just turned around and walked out. He went back to his chicken coop. He stepped in as much chicken poop as he could with his boots on, walked back into the hotel about an hour later, and he sat down in the lobby. And the place started stinking of that chicken poop smell. The manager came over and said, what are you doing in here? When I get paid, I'll leave. Finally, the owner comes running out with the money, gives him the money. And I said after I heard that story, I said to my dad, we could have done the same thing as plumbers. We wouldn't have had a problem, but so be it. This was a great place. What's that?
Got to get paid.
Got to get paid.
One way or the other.
This was a great place to grow up. I talked with some of my friends that were in the band with me, and being in the band in the hotels, we didn't stay there because we all lived locally. And as Joe said, you had to socialize with the guests. But we all had day jobs. I had to work for my dad. One of the other guys, Mark Stryfer, his dad owned an employment agency, which is a whole other subject. We had to leave, and the managers would always get mad at us because they wanted to socialize with the girls. So one of the guys actually quit his job, his day job, and he stayed there. He stayed at the hotel. So I just want to mention real quickly that if you want to see my collection, you could get on the website, CatskillResortMuseum.com. Go to the Facebook site, and they just did a fantastic interview of me, and you can get an idea of just a taste of some of the things that I have in the collection.
Wow.
I am so looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to the museum. It's I'm so looking forward to it.
And I hope that Joe comes up and play.
But I'm a little worried because I ate a lot of that coleslaw.
You got to be worried about the coleslaw.
Yeah.
Worry about the pickles.
You had to time the trip from the pantry, which is where the coleslaw was made, through the dining room doors. And if there was any lost or unaccounted for amount of time, then you didn't eat the coleslaw because certain things take it. It's limited. It's not for publication. But you know what? Nobody died. Nobody died. People died up here because they did things that they really shouldn't do. Like you're supposed to be on a restricted salt diet and you're wolfing down Mach's herring, or you've got a cardiac problem. And after sweating in the sun Saturday afternoon for the poker game, you jump into the cold swimming pool. That's why people die. They didn't die of food poisoning. They died because they just ate all of this stuff. But yes, coleslaw pickles were interesting. Accessories to the main course.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Thank you, Dan, for posting the Catskill Resort Museum address. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Bill.
Danny's all the way in Canada.
Canada, yeah. He's our resident tech guy.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
It's unofficial though. It's an unofficial title. Well, listen, we want to thank you all for joining us tonight. This was a fabulous show. We wanted to do this because this is the last show of the year before we go on hiatus. So this is a great way to go into the new year with a
And,
show
and
about.
I got to tell you that every one of you, we could have had just one person or two persons. So in the future, we are going to bring, just you.
That'd be great.
Because I love to hear Joe play again and Alan.
Absolutely.
That'd be great. I got more stories too.
We have
Joe,
to make
you're
this.
still 39, Joe. You got to play because when you're 40, the fingers go.
That's it.
We have to
It's
make
over.
the summer of 2023 a reality, so we could all get together and have a fabulous celebratory weekend.
And
Joe
then
will
go
hire
live there.
you and come play.
I'd
We'll
love
just
to.
have a party
nice.
weekend.
Be my gift.
That would
And
be wonderful.
I want to apologize to the people that couldn't get on, but a lot of people came on at the same time. One of the person that was going to come is Tad Frank. And I don't know if you know him, but he's Barry Frank's son.
Barry Frank was an MC.
Yeah, he was the MC. He was also a recording artist.
Yes.
Way back on the doo-wop.
Yeah.
I don't have my notes here, but he recorded at Earth Angel and things like that.
Oh wow!
So,
good, really good.
So you need a second show.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna do another.
Definitely.
And we're gonna put
Do you
some
know-
of the people that didn't come on.
Do you know if Elaine Grossinger, did she try to get on?
We were getting a notice there, but we couldn't get any more people on.
Oh, okay.
because
Well,
everybody
I'm sure
came in
she'll
at the
come
same
back
time.
on another time.
Yes, we should definitely do that.
It took me a while to get on. I had to pay somebody.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Are you gonna play for us, Joe?
I could play cards right now. I mean, if you want to play pinochle or something.
Right, I see you base back there. Let me-
You got the latest Mahjong card. We can play Mahjong here.
Play some canasta.
Let me
I'm
see.
canasta too.
All right.
Yeah, I see all those toys back there.
Oh boy, if I pointed that way, you'd see about 100 more. But that's an original 1966 GI Joe space capsule back there.
Oh,
I like that.
That's it. And I bought that from the money I didn't use to tip the guys at the dining room. So there you go.
Have I got some coleslaw for you?
Oh, God.
All right, everyone. We want to thank everybody that came on. We want to thank. I would mention all the names, but there were so many of you, and that we went into 2 hours. This is the first time we've done a 2-hour show.
We'll be sure to post the website for the Catskill Resort, for John Conway. Who else said? For Alan, for you guys to purchase his book as well. Thank you guys once again for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Nice meeting everybody.
Yes, nice
Night.
meeting everyone. Bye-bye.
Happy
Good
New
night.
Year to all.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, happy, healthy,
Year.
stay
See
safe.
you around the farm, neighbors.
I will. I'll invite you for some food.
Uh-oh.
All right.
Then I'll show you those cool push-ups that I do.
All right. All right. Deal. All right.
Oh gosh, that was funny. Wow, we have to go through some of these comments really quick. There are some that I really wanted to show. Okay, Abby Sue, she says 1996 question mark. She was in London antiquing in a 7-Eleven store. An English chap who should I be reading this in a British accent?
Sure.
Heard my Borcht Belt accent and asked where I was from. Long story short, I said the Catskills. He asked, have you ever heard of a place called Monticello? I told him I was born in Monticello Hospital. Come to find out he worked at Kutcher's as a tennis instructor.
Wow. Yeah.
George Shaw. I went to school with George. We actually graduated the same year.
Really?
When I worked at Kutcher's in the summers, I probably averaged about 3 to 4 hours of sleep at night from hanging out, partying, or just talking all night with friends to be up at 7:30 to go to work. Great times. Wow. I actually used to babysit at Kutcher's in the 90s.
Yes, I know you did.
Friday and Saturday nights. Let's see. Ooh. There's another comment from Abby. The staff dining room of the Concord. Convict-looking men with meat forks tucked into their Oh my gosh. Daniel Miller. Ed Sullivan brought all the comedians of those times to my TV screen when I was a child. I became a lifelong fan of comedy thanks to them.
Right.
Wonderful. I love that. We had a lot of great comments. What did George say? Oh, another great movie. A Walk on the Moon. Okay.
Yes.
Jennifer, I agree. I just want to make hashtag Borcht Belt trend for 2022. Let's do it. When this video is posted on YouTube, after I add all the websites and things from everyone, I'm gonna hashtag it. Let's start hashtagging Borcht Belt for the new year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think we should do that. Go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, we definitely have to do another show on this. Coming up on January, towards the end of January, we're gonna be talking about health.
Oh, I ran out of water.
You can take mine.
Okay.
We're gonna be talking about health. We're gonna bring some champions, some bodybuilder champion and nutrition and all that stuff.
Yeah, because January is the month
when everybody start making resolutions.
Yep.
So we're gonna bring these people that are going to be talking about health, nutritionist,
love it,
bodybuilder,
love it,
everything like that. So we are going to say, are you looking for more comments? Huh?
Nope, I'm just scrolling on to the, yes, you did. I remember. Yeah. So funny. Great show.
Thank you, Daniel.
Vita Thompson. Thank you, Vita. Listen, we really appreciate you guys coming on tonight. This, aside from when we had Pedro as our guest and we got to talk about his book, this was one of our highest watched shows. And we know people watch from StreamYard, from Facebook, and also through YouTube. So we really appreciate you guys coming on. Thank you for your support. Go to our YouTube channel and please make sure you subscribe and turn on that bell. All the shows that we have done are posted on the YouTube channel, so feel free during our hiatus to go on the YouTube channel and watch some of those past shows and show your support. And we'll be posting on the Tweed Talks Facebook page, so be sure to follow us there. Different shows that we want to highlight and talent and all that good stuff.
And Alan, make sure you accept our friend request.
Our friend request.
Friend request.
Yeah.
Okay. I sent you one yesterday. Okay. So with that, we're going to say love, peace, and harmony. And we'll talk to you soon.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.